The day peace died. For over 7,000 years, the stars knew only harmony. Humanity, once violent and broken by its own history, had risen from ashes to become a shining example of peace. Earth, a jewel among thousands of galactic concord worlds, was known not for its strength, but for its compassion, its unity, and its wisdom. Wars were stories told in museums. Weapons, artifacts buried under oceans and glass domes. Peace was no longer an effort. It was a way of life. But peace is a fragile dream. It began with silence. The Interstellar Youth Exchange Program had become a cherished tradition between member species of the Concord. Each cycle, select children from Earth and other planets would live, study, and grow together, learning each other's cultures and deepening the interspecies bond. This cycle, 27 human children were chosen to visit the Empire of Varelia, one of the most powerful civilizations within the Galactic Concord. The Varelians were proud, ancient, and slightly condescending, always viewing humans as curious little anomalies, full of warmth but lacking the backbone for power. 3 weeks into the exchange, the transmission stopped. At first, it was blamed on technical issues. Then came a vague statement from the Varelian High Council. For reasons of galactic security, the human juveniles will be temporarily held in protective custody. Earth's reaction was immediate and firm. The High Ambassador of Earth, Saren Elon, demanded explanation. The United Human Assembly sent official messages requesting immediate release. Parents cried on news streams. But the Galactic Council, bloated with bureaucracy, responded with delays, inquiries, and diplomatic hesitation. Behind closed doors, whispers spread. Espionage. Hidden human agendas. The children were gathering intelligence. The accusations were absurd. Earth had no military divisions left, no covert ops, no intelligence agencies, or so the galaxy believed. Weeks passed. Protests filled every major Earth city. The faces of the children, smiling from their last known transmissions, became symbols of betrayal. No message came for Varelia, no apology, no update, nothing but silence and smug disregard. Then came a final insult. A leaked Varelian transmission aired across the interstellar network. In it, a Varelian general was heard mocking Earth's response. Let the humans cry. That's all they're good at. They gave up war. They gave up power. Let them write songs and poems about their precious brats. We're the Empire. We do as we please. The feed cut, and something ancient stirred in humanity. Ambassador Saren stood before the United Human Assembly. The broadcast was live, streaming across Earth and to every listening Concord world. Her voice steady, her eyes burning. We once chose peace, not because we were weak, but because we had seen the price of war. We remembered Hiroshima, the Holocaust, the burning years. We remembered the cry of orphans and the silence of ashes. And we swore never again. But today, our children are taken, our pleas ignored, our dignity mocked. So let this be known to every star, every species, every coward in the council who watched and did nothing. The age of peace is over. She raised her hand. We declare war. The words echoed across the cosmos like a thunderclap. On Earth, a mother watching the broadcast dropped to her knees and wept, not from fear but relief. Someone was finally fighting for her son. In the mountains of Argentina, a hidden vault hissed open after 7 millennia. Inside, machines blinked to life, dust falling from chrome bodies marked with warning labels. Do not activate unless Earth is under threat. In orbit above Mars, the solar defense platform, long thought decommissioned, shifted, its silent cannons aligning toward deep space for the first time in 700 years. And across the stars, the other species of the Galactic Concord watched in disbelief. Humans? Declaring war? They laughed. They mocked. They had no idea. Because while humanity had chosen peace, they had never forgotten war. We remember the fire. Deep beneath the Atlantic Ocean, sealed in a vault of titanium and quantum locks, lay Earth's forbidden memory. It was called Vault 9, a remnant of the pre-Concord age, hidden away when humanity signed the peace accords and dismantled its militaries. Within its frozen chambers rested something the galaxy believed Earth had discarded, the legacy of war. Now Vault 9 had awakened. The decision was made in silence, within a blacked-out room deep under Geneva. The United Human Assembly no longer asked for votes. They gave orders. Protocol Genesis had been triggered. The contingency created 7,000 years ago in the event peace was betrayed. Thousands of ancient satellites reactivated. Swarms of drones rose from planetary oceans, and Earth's AI systems began rerouting global resources toward one single priority: war readiness. It took less than 5 days. Earth's entire infrastructure, once focused on agriculture, science, and diplomacy, bent itself toward war production with chilling efficiency. 3D printer colonies on the Moon began forging starship hulls. Mars reactivated its automated refineries. And Titan, the silent, frozen moon of Saturn, bloomed with shipyards hidden under its ice crust. But the real strength of humanity wasn't just its technology. It was memory. They remembered fire. General Cale Voss, once a historian and university professor, now stood at the head of Earth's reborn military. He had studied war as a warning, but he also studied strategy, psychology, and the brutality of empires. He addressed a secret assembly of commanders. The galaxy thinks we forgot how to fight. They're wrong. We just chose not to. He displayed an image of the 27 children. We are not here for conquest. We are not here for revenge. We are here to remind the galaxy what happens when you hurt humanity. The room was silent. Then, every hand rose in salute. In the shadows of Jupiter's orbit, the Spectre fleet launched. No flags, no broadcasts, no warnings. 50 ships cloaked in silence, each crewed by a fusion of AI and human volunteers, scientists, engineers, and even poets, who had left behind the world of peace to serve a purpose no human had needed in 7,000 years. The ships were lean, black, and terrifyingly quiet. They didn't aim to destroy. They aimed to erase. Meanwhile, on the Empire's capital world of Varelia Prime, the detained human children remained under heavy surveillance. What the Varelians didn't understand was that humanity had changed. These were not fragile beings. They were trained from early childhood in empathy, logic, cooperation, but also in resilience, mental endurance, calm rebellion. 10-year-old Elia Kaur didn't cry when they separated her from her roommate. She smiled. Then she began observing. How many guards? How they rotated? What species avoided eye contact? What door buzzed louder? Which guard had a daughter? She spoke softly, kindly, even to her captors. And slowly, ever so slowly, the walls began to crack. One guard, a junior Varelian named Lorne, found himself hesitating each time he passed her. He felt guilt, shame, but more than that, he felt something dangerous, doubt. Elia waited, just as she had been taught. We don't always fight with fists, her mother had once told her. Sometimes we fight by surviving. On Earth, Ambassador Saren received her final communication from the Galactic Concord. It was a warning. Human aggression will not be tolerated. Stand down or face sanctions. Saren didn't reply. Instead, she walked to the assembly window, looking out over a skyline now covered with military shuttles. She whispered to herself, "You should have protected our children." In a quiet chamber on the Moon, a massive AI intelligence named Athena finished analyzing the Varelian defense grids. Athena had been sleeping for millennia, a sentient war strategist created during the Unification Wars. Now, she was awake and furious. Target nodes located, strike routes calculated, weaknesses found in Varelian capital shield systems. Requesting authorization to proceed, General Cale Voss gave one command. Remind them. Within hours, the Spectre fleet struck. Not a single life was lost, but 23 key defense satellites went dark. 14 Empire ships mysteriously vanished from orbit. Every communication hub on the outer rim collapsed. The Empire awoke to a galaxy gone silent. And for the first time in recorded history, the Varelian High Council declared a state of emergency. But it was too late, because humans didn't roar when they went to war. They whispered. In the dark cell on Varelia Prime, Elia received a small paper. No one saw who delivered it. The guards claimed no knowledge. On it, a single line written in old Terran English. "We are coming." She smiled, and the galaxy began to tremble. Wrath of the forgotten species. The stars no longer sang with peace. They whispered warnings, carried on the silent wake of vanishing satellites and shattered pride. The Varelian Empire, once the most feared and structured power in the Galactic Concord, now faced something it had never anticipated: human retaliation. But it wasn't like any war they had known. There were no declarations, no battles for territory. Earth wasn't interested in ruling. Humanity's weapons were precision, patience, and purpose. The Spectre fleet, humanity's ghost armada, had struck nearly a dozen key Empire sectors in just 9 days. Not a single civilian had been harmed. Yet entire planetary defense systems, trade networks, and command channels were wiped out. It wasn't warfare. It was humiliation. The Empire tried to respond. They deployed hunter cruisers, warhounds, planetary interceptors. None returned. Within the throne chamber of Varelia Prime, Emperor Karel Solon pounded his fist on the crystalline table. They dare shame us? They were scholars, peacemakers. His voice echoed through the golden chamber, but no one met his eyes. The Empire's pride, unshakable for millennia, was cracking. The military generals presented maps of scorched relay systems, stealth intrusions, and sabotage they couldn't trace. Worst of all were the stories coming from the outer colonies. Ghostly ships appearing without warning, disabling entire stations, and leaving behind one simple message on every screen: "Return our children." On Earth, General Kale Voss stood before the war tribunal. "We do not seek conquest, only resolution. We have struck only where they held power. If they want peace, they will return what they stole." Ambassador Saren added coldly, "We gave peace every chance. Now, we teach them why it was a gift." Meanwhile, deep in the dungeons of Varelia Prime, the human children had become more than prisoners. They were legends. Their calm defiance had begun to affect the staff. Guards now hesitated to use harsh language. Meals arrived warmer, and more than once, a detention officer found himself walking away with questions he couldn't explain. Elia Kaur, the quiet girl who had once simply observed, now began to lead. Through whispers and notes passed through the air vents, the children coordinated distractions, memorized guard patterns, even smuggled fragments of metal for broken cleaning drones. They weren't planning a jailbreak. They were building resistance. Elia's plan wasn't escape. It was conversion. And it was working. One young Varelian guard, Lorne, finally gave in. One night, as Elia sat on the cold floor tracing maps with her finger, he whispered, "Why don't you fight like others?" She looked up at him, eyes calm. "Because we don't need to. The galaxy is already changing." He didn't sleep that night. The next morning, Lorne sent a message to a resistance group buried deep in Varelian society, one that had always warned the Empire would collapse from its arrogance. Now they listened, because the humans had arrived. The Galactic Concord panicked. In an emergency summit, dozens of species cried for intervention, but none volunteered to face Earth. Too dangerous, too precise, too angry. The Concord, which had once laughed at human idealism, now debated how to appease them. One elder Zarkathi said, "We mistook their silence for softness. We forgot that even a garden hides its roots in darkness." On Varelia Prime, chaos bloomed. Port shut down. Merchant guilds fled the capital. Every display flickered with a single countdown. 72 hours. Return them or watch the sky fall. The Emperor refused. His pride, deeper than his fear, held him like iron chains. He issued a final decree: prepare for war. But it was too late. The humans had already prepared for justice. 71 hours and 59 minutes after the final warning, the sky above Varelia Prime turned black. Earth's fleet had arrived. Not hundreds of ships, just 23. But they floated in silence, unmoving, untouched by defenses. Because every defense system had already been disabled. The entire planetary grid, was controlled remotely by Athena, Earth's ancient AI. The planet's energy fields shut down. Their orbital cannons froze. Entire Navy fleets drifted without power. The Varelians looked up in disbelief. They were no longer in control. Inside the children's prison, every door clicked open at once. No alarms, no guards, just silence. Elia and the others stepped into the hallway. Lorne stood at the end, arms raised. "Your people are here," he whispered. "And I think they broke the Empire." Elia nodded. "No, they reminded it who we are." She walked past him without fear. Behind her, the children followed. They were no longer hostages. They were survivors. As the Spectre fleet hovered above the planet, a single broadcast went live across every Varelian screen. Ambassador Saren stood in frame, Earth's banner behind her. "This is not conquest. This is not revenge. This is memory. For 7,000 years, we honored peace. You thought we forgot how to fight. You thought we wouldn't protect our own." She stepped aside. Behind her, the 27 children stepped into view, safe, strong, and unbroken. Elia raised a hand. "We're going home now. Don't ever take what isn't yours again." The transmission ended. The fleet turned, and Earth vanished into the stars. But the message remained. The galaxy had seen humanity's wrath, and it would never forget. When Earth stands, stars tremble. The stars had witnessed many wars. Planets had burned, fleets had clashed, and empires had risen and fallen like tides. But nothing had ever shaken the galaxy like Earth's silent march. Humanity had not waged war. They had delivered a message. And now, the galaxy listened. Back on Earth, the 27 children stood before the United Human Assembly. Dressed not in armor, but in white, they were honored not as victims, but as symbols of strength. Elia Kor spoke for them all. "We were afraid, but we were never broken. You came for us, and now the stars know what it means to be human." The assembly rose. Every citizen, every screen, every voice across Earth echoed with one phrase: never again. It wasn't a vow of vengeance. It was a promise of guardianship. Earth would no longer watch quietly from the sidelines while arrogance and cruelty grew unchecked. If the galaxy valued peace, it would be protected. And if it betrayed peace again, it would tremble. The Varelian Empire never recovered. Oh, they still ruled their inner planets, still held seats on the Concord, but their voice was quieter now. Their eyes lowered, their arrogance shattered. The Emperor, once unshakable, abdicated 3 months after the children's return. His successor, a young Varelian named Solari Ven, reached out to Earth not with apologies, but with a treaty. It reads simply: "We were wrong. You are not soft. You are the storm we never saw coming. Teach us peace before we forget again." Earth accepted, not out of pride, but out of purpose, because Earth remembered what came before peace. Humanity began to change, not into conquerors, not into tyrants, but into guardians. The Spectre fleet was not disbanded. It was expanded, absorbing volunteers from other worlds, creating a new branch of galactic enforcement. Silent, fast, just. The AI Athena became a central mind for interplanetary security, not to control, but to watch, to protect, because Earth had learned something others hadn't. Peace must be chosen again and again, and when it is betrayed, the consequences must be swift, not cruel, but unforgettable. They called it the Terra Doctrine, and the stars listened. Elia Kor, still young but forged by trauma and resolve, would one day become Earth's youngest ambassador. Her words echoed across thousands of worlds. "We do not seek power. We seek balance. We were the species that walked through fire and chose to build gardens. But burn our garden, and we will show you the fire we still carry in our bones." On the outer rim, a new generation of Aurelians grew up hearing the story of the day the humans came. In their schools, it was no longer a tale of shame, but of warning. Even their children whispered it at night. Don't touch what's not yours. Don't take what Earth loves. Because when Earth stands, the stars tremble. In the Concord archives, historians struggled to categorize the incident. No official battles had taken place. No planets were occupied. No enemy generals executed. And yet, it had changed the course of galactic history. They named it the Return of the Forgotten Species. But on Earth, it had another name. It was simply called the Rescue. 75 years later, a new threat would rise beyond the galactic rim. An ancient race awakening from exile, one that did not value peace or diplomacy. They laughed when told about the galactic concord. They roared when warned about Earth, until a lone ship drifted into their space. No weapons visible, no fleet behind it, just a message. You have one chance. They ignored it. 3 days later, their central communication moon vanished. No debris, no survivors, only a symbol burned into the dust. A child's handprint, in 4 words written in ancient Terran script. We do not forget. So the legend lived on, not in fear, but in respect. Because when Earth stands quiet, firm, and unshaken, empires tremble. And when humanity speaks, the galaxy listens.